mistake. I'm sorry the memories left you hanging. If you're still wrapped up in me, then I don't know who the hell you are. I don't want to know. I should be ancient history by now, and you should be settled down with some civilian and a couple kids. This clubhouse never was a place for a real lady.
Real lady? Was he patronizing me, or just trying to let me down easy? Shit, the fact that he was letting me down at all hit me in the chest and shredded my heart. Before I could say anything else, he turned, heading for the bar. Wait, Roman? The blade he'd pushed into my chest just sank deeper when I heard myself saying those fucking words. Wait. Haven't I been doing it for 22 fucking months? All alone, hiding my memories at the ranch, suffering in silence? My brain flipped to a different mode. I couldn't let him get away from me again like this. I had to get his attention. Now. Running after him, I grabbed a bottle off the bar and threw it. I wasn't trying to hit him, but the glass made a hell of a noise when it hit the floor, right by his boot. Roman whirled. How could those eyes that were so sexy and full of life be so dead and glacial? I stared back at him, hoping he caught pure hell in my dark blue eyes. Maybe I'd see a spark of something that was still alive. My temper took over. This wasn't the man I knew. Even if this stranger had the same incredible body, the same face I'd imagined night after night. Go ahead and walk the fuck away again, you coward! I screamed, my voice surprisingly steady. At least this time I know it's not the prisons and the courts holding you back. You're not man enough to handle us. Christ, that idea scared me too. But I still said it. I still offered it to him, even after all this time. I expected him to strike back, shove me to the wall, get in my face. Instead, he just turned around and kept going. He left me alone. I was about to storm out when the brother who'd taken a beating with a bald guy stepped in front of me. A few minutes later, I saw him at the bar. I let Rabid, what a ridiculous name, right, pour me a shot of whiskey. We talked about bad luck and love. He was nice enough, and I actually felt better by the time I had a couple drinks. We must have sat and talked for hours. If he wasn't so hooked on some redhead he was chasing, I might have leaned over and kissed him just to spite Roman. Maybe to spite myself for being so stupid, thinking this would be easy.
Good luck, baby,
Rabid said, just before I gathered up my purse to leave.
Try coming by in a few weeks. Maybe then we'll have sorted through some of our shit.
I hope so, I told him. Thanks, Rabid. I've got a feeling you'll sort whatever's got you by the balls just fine. His chances were definitely better than mine, anyway. When I left the clubhouse, the only thought rattling around in my head was how much I never wanted to see that overgrown asshole Roman ever again. If only it were that simple. At home, the reason why I practically walked over broken glass to see him at the clubhouse sat in my arms, soft and sleepy. Soon, Caleb would be growing into a real toddler. I've tried like hell to raise my son alone, to forget about Roman and walk the fuck away, never looking back. But every time I looked into my son's dark brown eyes and saw the same powerful jawline forming on him, I knew. I understood what he deserved, what he needed. The kid had to have his father, even if the man who shared his DNA turned my heart to ice. No, I couldn't give up this easy. God help me. I was the only one who could bring Roman into his life, or else I'd keep them apart forever.
2. Longing. Roman. Prison changes a man. It makes him leery, anxious, and ready to fucking fight every second his body isn't so damned exhausted it makes him stay still. We'd only been in church for 5 minutes, and I was getting goddamned antsy. Beam! Stryker! Blackjack stood at the head of the table, staring at our two prospects like he was about to anoint them with holy oil. You've proven yourselves. You've spilled blood and licked dirt for this club, and now you're going to do it some more. The room was dead silent. The two men looked at each other, nervous as hell. It would have been funny if I didn't have so much shit on my mind. The difference is This time we'll be calling you our brothers. Welcome to the fold, boys. You've earned your bottom rockers, and the vote was unanimous." The Prez stopped and looked at me. "Roman?" My cue to get up and hand them the patches I'd been sitting on since we got into the room. The boys stared at me like their damned eyeballs were about to melt. They probably couldn't believe how quickly they'd been patched in. Well, there's more of that these days, especially with good men dropping like fucking flies along the border. Before we really started to tango with the cartel, we were the biggest MC west of the Mississippi. Flash forward a couple years and we'd lost hundreds, rivers of blood spilled to gain the upper hand over those bastards from Mexico. Not to mention some of our own brothers, who'd turned this club into such a shithole it was too weak to push the invaders back where they belonged in the first place. "Congratulations, brother." I shook Stryker's hand, a tall man, former soldier. Then I moved to Beam and offered the same thing. He had more of a punk-ass skateboarder's look, but whatever. Seeing dudes with weird styles was nothing out of the ordinary in any MC. "Take your seats, brothers. We've got business." We all nodded and found our places while Blackjack limped back to his. The Prez's bum leg probably would never heal. He'd taken a bullet when the boys fought Fang, our old fuck of a Prez, not long before I got out of jail. When I showed up for duty with the new and improved Grizzlies MC, I wasn't sure what to expect. Luckily, the past few months have proven it's a big improvement. Anything beat the old group of thugs, killers, and honorable outlaws getting their asses kicked by the cartel. I went away after killing for the brothers I trusted. Since I took the enforcer promotion, it was my job to make damned sure no man sat at this table or wore this patch who couldn't be called a brother in the fullest sense of the word. Once everybody was seated, Blackjack looked at Brass, our VP, waiting for him to deliver the latest war report. "We're still struggling with these ambushes, Prez. The Devils are working with the Oregon crew, helping hold things down up north. But they hit us every week in L.A. and San Diego. Sacramento's got spots we don't control, even after several months." He paused, as if he didn't want to say the next part. "They're still going after men's families. They beheaded a brother's old lady last week in SoCal." Fuck. Christ. Hands went up and slapped the table. Men shook their heads. My guts spooled up like a goddamn chain getting ready to snap. The brothers who've got women they've claimed looked the worst. At our table, that was Brass and Rabid, but several other guys were just as pissed. I felt it too, an iron-hot fire making me want to hit the road and strangle a few cartel soldiers myself. Thinking about those fucks butchering an old lady only fed the shit running through my head. It wasn't just about the dead chick. It was the ultimate slap in the face, the ultimate way for those cocksuckers to squat on us and take a steaming dump on the entire club. For a split second, it made me think about her, before I shoved Sally out of my skull for the 10th time that day. Christ! Blackjack's lips twitched angrily, taking a few seconds to collect his words. "All the more reason to end this thing before Christmas." "I hope it's that easy, Prez," Rabbit said, breaking in. "Shit, I'd give up Jack all winter if we didn't have to worry about those fucks breathing down our throats." "Quit bullshitting, brother. I'd settle just for the Mexicans breathing down our throats instead of fucking cutting them." Brass stared at his friend across the table. "Enough! You know why we're here." Blackjack peered out at all of us, one by one, stopping on me dead last. "We need manpower. The 2 brothers we've just patched in are just the beginning. Roman, you're going to choose 3 new hang-arounds by the end of the week. Make them prospects. Make sure they're ready to face hell for this brotherhood." A few guys exchanged icy glances. The club's power structure was too damned new for a lot of them to openly grumble to the Prez. Not me. I couldn't slack off when the stakes were this high, even if the Prez was wrong. "Prez, I told you last week we can't be flipping through these strangers like a revolving door. Hell, this isn't the army where we can snap our fingers and draft a bunch of bastards from Reading just looking for a little action and some mean tattoos. We can't pick up every motherfucking kid fresh out of high school who likes Harleys and thinks wearing this patch will show all the ladies his balls have dropped." A few guys snickered. Brass gave me a nod, then looked at the Prez. "Roman's right. Look, Prez, I do all the background checks I can on these guys, but I can't catch everything. One of them could be some plant wearing a badge trying to get into our operation. Or even some fucker working for one of the cartels. Several guys stared at the Veep in disbelief. It happens. Believe it or don't. Better you hear it from me than find out the fucking hard way. Thank fuck. Maybe hearing it from the VP would make the Prez see the light. Then Asphalt piped up, his bald head shining, reminding everybody the asshole's the biggest hothead at this table. Yeah? Excuse me, Veep, but what fucking good's that gonna do if we're all dead? The cartel's picking guys off one by one. Sure, we've made progress, but just wait till they call for reinforcements in the spring. These bastards are huge. They've got shit stretching all the way down to Colombia, and if they think we're a big enough problem, they'll bring in reinforcements. Damn if I didn't want to grab his head and bounce it off the table like a goddamned basketball. You're thinking short-term, Asphalt, and that's being pretty fucking generous. How bad do you think we'll have it if this club gets caught between some DEA mole and the cartel's shit? We can barely keep the bribes flowing now to make sure the feds look the other way with all the blood turning this state red. Shit, next year we've got an election coming up, and all the money in the world might not save us if those peacocks in their suits latch onto it. I let my fists hit the table. Think harder, brother. Yeah, that last part was an afterthought. I didn't give a shit when he started eyeballing me, neither. Too bad the Prez started doing the same thing. You know we're in a desperate situation, son, Blackjack said. If we hadn't spent so much time and effort sorting out our own problems in this club, the cartel wouldn't be tightening its hold at all. The stakes have never been this high. Several guys coughed. I was the only man in the room who could take the Prez head on, while everybody else just wilted underneath his sorcerer's gaze. I never had trouble seeing why. Blackjack held the enforcer spot before me under Fang. Shit, he'd been cracking skulls for this club since most of us were kids. Imagine it's you. Your families, brothers. I know there's nobody wearing this patch who'd hesitate to shed sweat and blood for the bear, but no man ought to risk his lifeblood, his woman, his kids. We protect our old ladies and our children as viciously as we back up any man with our patch. If that means we've got to bring in a few more good, eager soldiers faster than we'd like, then you better believe I'll fucking do it. His fist came down hard. The old table was probably going to take a lot more punches before the meeting ended. You know what the revised charter says. It's every full patch member's right to call for a vote, and we'll go by majority rule. Furrowing his brow, he folded his arms. Do it. I can't have dissent when we're fighting for our goddamned lives. If anyone here disagrees, call the vote. We'll sort out your objections without any hard feelings. My hand twitched. I wanted to fucking do it bad. Of course I didn't. Gauging club politics came easy to me. I'd been through enough tense church sessions like this one to know I'd be on the losing side. That's the thing about democracy. It only fucking works when the votes go your way. Well, nobody? Blackjack paused. Good. Then we've aired our objections and we can move forward like men. Roman, you have your orders. My hands balled into fists. All I could do not to give the Prez the world's most sarcastic as fuck salute. I'll make sure the new recruits are up to speed, I said, and I meant it, too. I'd been in the life long enough to know Prezes and Veeps don't always make perfect decisions, but brothers like Blackjack and Brass deserved my respect, and I was damned sure going to give it to them, even at the cost of bringing down more shit for this club we'd all have to clean up. Church ended on a high note. Several brothers hit the bar with our newest full patch members, laughing and serving them shots. I kept my distance, like always. Evening rolled in, and the guys with old ladies invited them to join the celebration. The whores and club sluts began to show up, too. I needed to keep my ass glued to the bottle, so I sat, watching Rabbit and Brass hug their women close. Every time they kissed their girls, there was love in those lips, the only kind that comes from a man putting his brand on his old lady. I couldn't decide what the fuck was worse, the lovey-dovey shit with the old ladies or watching dudes like Asphalt, Stryker, and Beam slobbering all over tonight's easy pussy. Even old Southpaw was getting in on the action at the edge of the bar. The big gray-haired blockhead looked up and grinned at me over the shoulder of some nameless bitch straddling his lap. My dick jerked hard. I'd been clean for too fucking long, stuffed away in prison, a desert without tits and ass if there ever was one. Fuck. My hand tightened on my glass, thinking about Sally. I reached for the bottle, adding another big splash of Jack to my beer. I downed the shit in one big gulp and started all over again. But when I was behind bars, I told myself getting fucked up was first on the list as a free man. As it turned out, there hadn't been time for that crap since I got to the clubhouse. Rabbit and his new old lady, that bouncy redhead on his lap named Krista, caused us a world of shit just a few weeks ago. She'd hidden her blood debts to our brothers up in Oregon till it all came screaming out of the closet, and the crew in Klamath Falls was rotten to the core. We found out real fast who our brothers really were in that group. The rest were dead and buried, rotting underneath 10 feet of thick concrete. Of course, Sally picked the worst time in the world to show up during that fuckery. Seeing her after 2 damned years of silence blew my brains out my skull. Did she really expect to just pick up where we'd left off after I'd given her more than any other woman that summer? Did she think I'd forget she hadn't said boo for 2 fucking years while I lived in that pit? When she whipped that bottle at my boots and cursed me for walking away, she tore my heart in half. One part wanted to march right back, throw her over my shoulder, and fuck her goddamned brains out. That chick warmed my blood like nobody before. The other half wanted me to spit in her face, tell her what a bitch she was for walking away, leaving me high and dry like a goddamned chump. No, it wasn't just the dry spell in prison driving me up the wall. Even when I touched her a couple weeks ago, it was like a fucking jolt. Sandpaper scratched my veins, and molten blood pooled straight in my dick, turning it into a hammer ready and willing to bust holes in the walls. I couldn't deal with that shit, that firestorm in my blood, leaving me in a stupor. I took another swig, feeling relief from bad memories when it hit my guts and burned. Every glance around the clubhouse hurt my eyes. Too bad there was no relief as long as I was stuck here. A few minutes more, watching brothers on the verge of getting their dicks wet, and I couldn't fucking take it. I jumped off my seat, carrying my new beer and whiskey cocktail with me, wandering toward the room in the back where I always crashed for the night. I just wanted to pass the fuck out and find some peace for a few hours. Soon as I flicked on the lights and kicked the door shut behind me, I got an eyeful that lit my dick up like a fucking bottle rocket. Twinkie was on the floor next to my bed, naked from the waist down. Her arms sprawled out above her blonde pigtails, a half-burnt joint between her fingers. She twisted her head, staring at me with those bright, hooded eyes. Dangerously similar to Sally's. Do it, motherfucker! My cock's lightning hit my brain, and I heard its pleas crystal clear. At first, she looked scared, startled. She knew damned well she wasn't supposed to be in a brother's room without his permission. Normally, that shit got these whores an ass-tanning or an angry shove back where they belonged. That night, I had something different on my mind, and there was no fucking way I was shutting my sex-starved dick up. "Oh, Christ! Hold up, Roman, I'm on my way out," she moaned, staggering to her feet, her eyes going wide and alert when she saw me coming toward her. "I didn't take anything, honest. I just wanted a spot to relax by myself, and I know there's never anybody in your—" I didn't let her finish. 5 seconds later, she was up against the wall, my lips covering her mouth. I couldn't wait to start humping her bare cunt before I snapped off my belt and pushed down my pants. "Roman," she groaned, soon as I brushed her clit, breaking the kiss. "Holy shit." Yeah, holy shit. I barely had time to stoop down to my pocket for a condom. I had to get the fuck inside this chick before my balls exploded, before the booze in my system stopped clouding my brain long enough to think. I couldn't fuck her if I felt the guilt tugging at my heart, and just thinking about the guilt at all pissed me the fuck off. Sally and me weren't shit. Fuck, she didn't even write me once while I was in the pen, and seeing her show up without telling me what the hell she really wanted poured salt in the gashes she'd left behind. No woman's got any business doing that shit to me, and the only way they'd get away with it was if I let 'em. I had to put a stop to it by fucking myself blind. I had to get back in the game, get my cock good and wet, pump my loads into a pussy or two that didn't mean shit to me and never would. Thank fuck for Twinkie. Snarling, I grabbed her pigtails, jerking her head up over my shoulder while I slid inside her. My hips hit autopilot as soon as her hot cunt swallowed me up. Surprisingly tight for a whore. It would do, and I'd do her, use her pussy to medicate myself for the night with a little help from Dr. Jack. I pistoned hard and fast, feeling the fire building in my balls. It took her a minute to fully process the fact that I was fucking her. Yeah, me, the 6'5", totally silent asshole who never had one night with a whore in this clubhouse in all the weeks he'd been home. Her fingernails wrapped around my shoulders, just below the blades, digging in little by little. These girls were used to getting fucked. Showing them new tricks wasn't easy. Fuck if I didn't make her come, though. Maybe she blew her gasket on the novelty of fucking me, or maybe it was because I was just that goddamned good. She moaned my name a couple more times, sucked at my throat, making me growl like a demon in her ear while my hips went berserk. Her ass slapped the wall over and over, and I seriously wondered if I'd put her butt through the goddamn sheetrock. Didn't stop me. Didn't make me give up a single second. It'd take a raging bull to stop me after this, buried balls deep, the first cunt I'd had in almost 2 fucking years. The first one I had since... Sally. Her name crackled into my fucked up brain like a phantom, ruining it just as Twinkie's pussy tightened like a rubber band around my cock. Fuck, fuck, fuck! She convulsed. I couldn't hold back. I pinned her down, straining the wall worse than ever, listening to her breath hitch while my balls throbbed, ready for release. I came into the condom, trying like hell to squeeze the rage out of my body. But it wouldn't fucking leave. She'd buried it too fucking deep, and emptying my nuts in this whore wasn't doing shit except scratching a temporary itch. Damn if I didn't scratch it raw. My body slapped hers against the wall till I couldn't see, couldn't feel anything except the wave of fire, hate, and frustration rippling through me, but never leaving me as easy as the seed flowing into that sheath wrapped around my length. Fuck me. Her hips were still trembling against mine when I pulled out. I let go, watching her sink to the floor, knocked into a sex coma. Okay, maybe there was a little pride in that. Just not enough to scrub the dirt from my skull. Get up, I growled. Clean up in the bathroom and get the fuck out. I need to sleep. Wait, what? You don't want me spending the night? Those big blue eyes made me want to punch the wall. Cruel fucking reminders. That was exactly what they were. Dark gems telling me she'd never be the chick I really wanted wrapped around my dick, even if they had a few things in common. You heard me. Go. Grabbing her pants off the floor, I threw them at her and pointed to the small bathroom attached to my room. She pouted. I watched her turn around and pull up her panties, then the torn jeans she always wore around the clubhouse. That hollow feeling hit me as I eyeballed her all the way to the door. Before closing it, she shot me one last pitiful look, as if to say, asshole, and is this it, all at once. Yeah, it's fucking it, I growled back quietly, once the door clicked shut. That's all I've got to give. You're just another fuck. Everything she should have been, too. I walked to my bathroom and ripped the small door underneath the sink open. There was a third of amber whiskey left in the bottle there. I popped the cap and guzzled it, relieved there was still some sweet fire in this world that could numb the bullshit. Maybe I fucked up, giving Sally the cold shoulder. She definitely did, keeping her distance for 2 goddamned years when every fucking day was a struggle to watch my back and stay breathing. Prison doesn't give a man do-overs. You either play it careful, work the gangs inside, and avoid the bloodthirsty fucks who want to shank your guts in the shower, or you leave in a body bag. I walked out without a scratch. I'd never had much use for all that touchy-feely bullshit about emotional trauma, but damn if I couldn't feel the damage underneath my skin. Prickly, savage, and relentless. I had to let go. I needed to get the fuck on with my own life. I understood crazy, and being obsessed with Sally was fucking it. Staying wrapped up in some chick I had a messy fling with almost 2 years ago was nothing short of downright loco. I didn't give a shit how many empty whores I'd fuck, how many bottles of Jack I'd suck down, or how many times I'd feel my dick twitching with a hunger that wouldn't be satisfied by anything less than Sally's hot cunt tucked around it. I'd screw my head on straight and serve this club. The Grizzlies MC marked the beginning and the end of my entire life, and pouring all my focus into it hadn't failed me yet. The show had to go on. I'd fight like hell for my brothers before I fought for her after she stabbed me in the back. And if spilling more cartel blood wouldn't silence the stir-crazy ache in my veins, then I'd sure as shit find something that would. Crawling back to the woman I was dead set on walking away from forever wasn't an option.
3. Corralled. Sally.
Sally, turn that damned thing off!
I barely heard Norman shouting over the tractor's rumble. It wasn't until he ran right in front of me that I slammed on the brakes. Jesus. The machine snorted, jerking to a stop less than a foot away from him. Too damned close for comfort. My cousin just grinned like we were playing a game of bumper cars and waved.
Come on, get off that thing. We need to talk.
I hoped to God he wasn't going to ride me about coming out here an hour late again, especially when I'd been up with Caleb half the night. My rambunctious baby still woke up at the craziest times. This past year, I'd forgotten what it was like to sleep through a solid 8 hours, much less a whole night. We didn't have time for petty arguments. Harvest was just around the corner, and soon we'd be prepping, packaging everything we could for the market, and then winterizing the place. "What's up?" The smile on my cousin's face melted. Crap, now I knew something was wrong. He was rarely this serious, and whatever had him ruffled probably didn't involve me dragging my feet on too little sleep. "Norm, is something going on?" I prodded him when he didn't answer.
"It's Greg, our rodeo boy. You know how he spends a lot of time out camping in Modoc?"
Of course. I didn't understand what the hell he was getting at with our best guy unless... Oh, God. My stomach dropped about 1,000 feet. Had he screwed off too much? Did my cousin want to fire him? Surely he wouldn't be that crazy. It wasn't like Greg lit the field on fire or something. We'd be sunk without his cattle experience. I couldn't take the suspense. I had to take him down from disaster. I shot Norm a cold look and pursed my lips. "Don't tell me. You want him out? What's he done?" Norman cocked his head.
"Nah, it's nothing like that. The kid's doing a wonderful job when he's actually punching the clock."
"Then?"
"It's what he's seen up there that I'm interested in. The kid's been seeing lots of crap flying at night. Foreign guys prowling around, burying shit in the forests. Those parks are arid and sparse, let me tell you. But they make damned good hiding places because they're so isolated. If he hadn't been up there, I wouldn't have known how to make heads or tails of anything."
"Huh?" Confusion fogged my brain. "I don't get it. What's that got to do with our farm?" Norman shot me a stern glance, tight-lipped as ever.
"Walk with me."
I had no choice but to follow him. He acted like he was sitting on the biggest secret in the world, and something about that turned my stomach into knots. We got in the truck, the same clunker still chugging away after Roman's repair that fateful summer so long ago, and drove down the narrow path leading to our property's edge. We hardly ever came out here. The fields were no good for growing or grazing past a certain point. This was dead land, and we'd never had the time or resources to till it up and revive it.
"There!"
He hit the brake, and the truck jerked to a stop next to a dusty field full of brittle weeds. Norman rolled down the window and stuck his hand out, pointing furiously at the ground, right where it formed a ditch between the rusted barbed wire and the no-man's land beyond. I strained in my seat to sit up, scanning the ground. When I saw it, I felt like I'd taken a turn down Weird Street. Something resembling a trap door laid in the ground, covered only by a thin layer of sandy redding dust. What the hell? I popped the door and clambered out, crossing the road, approaching the strange compartment I'd never seen before. It shouldn't have been there. It shouldn't have been real. Norm couldn't reach me before I crouched on the ground and ripped it open. I had to jerk hard, tugging with both hands, until the pressure holding it shut gave. The cavern below was surprisingly deep. Dark, too. My eyes needed a few seconds to adjust, peering through the cobwebs and dust. I didn't see anything obviously dangerous. It should have been a relief, but it wasn't. I reached in, feeling around. The pit was deep, about the right dimensions for a grave, and my arm burned before my fingers brushed the ground. I slid forward, digging my toes into the earth for support. Deeper, deeper. Both hands touched something, got a hold, and pulled. I jerked myself up with a small box, and the rattle inside it said it wasn't empty.
"Shit, be careful."
Norm must have said it about 5 times.
"You're gonna fall in."
I ignored him. About a minute later, the contents were sprawled out in a small circle around me. Old wrinkled pages torn from an atlas, a sturdy hunting knife, a simple flip phone from the early 2000s, and it looked worn enough to really be that old, too. A small booklet was taped to the map. I pulled it off and thumbed through it, seeing a few basic phrases in English and Spanish. All of them were things like, hands up, down on the ground, don't move, don't make me shoot. If I had to guess, I'd say it came from the Mexican military, judging by the big blocky text and sharp-looking crests on the front and back. Of course, there was no good reason for legitimate soldiers to be out here in Northern California. Everything here was too fresh to be a time capsule, and too weird to be anything official. The only thing that made sense turned my blood to ice. Cartel. Nothing else made sense.
Sally, Christ, be careful with that junk,
Norman panted.
Greg already showed me everything this morning. There's no guns or grenades in there, but hell, it'd be nice if you gave me a chance to tell you.
Sorry, Norm. I looked up. What's the deal? You're acting like you want to leave this crap in the ground, on our property. My cousin shook his head, his salt and pepper hair bobbing in the summer breeze.
You're damned right I do. This stuff could have been hiding underneath our noses for months. We don't know if or when the owners are coming back. What do you think they'll do if they realize we've been screwing around with their stuff?
Damn. My heart beat 5 times faster when his words sunk in. Jesus, if this is what it looked like, the cartel on the prowl, then our farm wasn't safe anymore. I'd read enough brutal stories to know what happened to anyone who got in their way, or just ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. Whoever buried this crap out here wanted to keep it a secret. I don't know much about the criminal underworld, but I understood men who killed and smuggled for a living would do anything to stay in the shadows. They wouldn't hesitate to hurt me, Norm, or, God forbid, my Caleb. I thought about shadows descending on his crib late one night, all while a dark hand smothered me, pulled me away from my son, an ice-cold knife pressed to my throat. Jesus, no. I can't let it happen. I won't. Swallowing the lump in my throat, I boxed up everything, and then pushed the crap back into the spider hole. I flipped the door shut, listening to the loud bang as it hit the frame. Norm threw his hands up.
Damn it, Sally. You've got to be more careful than that. Just looking at that stuff might tip somebody off. We've been poking our noses where we shouldn't, and if those bastards find out...
He didn't need to say it, and he knew it. We'd both imagined about a dozen brutal possibilities by now. I'm just following your example, cousin. You said yourself you'd looked in there before I did. Maybe you should take your own advice before you decide to get up my ass. He opened his mouth and then promptly closed it. He hated being wrong, especially when it was the family's black sheep who pointed it out. If I'd learned anything about growing up here since Uncle Ralph took me in, it was Norm's 20 years on me hadn't really made him any wiser. Of course, his mistakes were little ones. He'd hit the bottle and gotten a couple DUIs after Jenny died. A tragic end to a barren, strained marriage. I was the reckless bitch who'd screwed up big time and got myself knocked up by an outlaw. That was far worse, and everybody except my dearly departed uncle made me feel it every fucking day.
Fair enough,
he said at last, deciding to let it go.
Still, we need to be very careful here. This is serious business, Sally. This could get us killed.
I rolled my eyes. Yeah, you're repeating yourself, Farmer Obvious. Should we both go to the police, or do you want me to make the run by myself? I'm not letting anybody here get their head cut off. I'm dealing with it. We'd almost reached his truck when I said it. Then Norman froze, glaring at me like I'd just said the stupidest thing imaginable. What? Don't give me that look. Not unless you've got some awesome plan from your years of dealing with Mexican drug lords. My sarcasm tightened his face.
Look, it's not that easy. Going to the police is just as bad as taking that shit out of the ground and pouring concrete in the hole. What do you think they'll do out here exactly, Sally? Assign us a National Guard platoon to guard the ranch?
Of course not. But they'd at least look into it, wouldn't they? Maybe send a few guys on patrol at night to catch anybody prowling around? I paused and shook my head. Am I just speaking a different language? Norm's lips twitched in a bitter smile.
Yeah, Sally, you're speaking Pollyanna. I don't think you realize we're dealing with stone-cold criminals here. You've seen the news? These guys chop entire families' heads off, just because they looked at one of their goons the wrong way. Greg says
a lot of shit, I snapped. He's not an expert any more than you, Norm. Jesus, I've hung around more dyed-in-the-wool outlaws than any of you. Remember who Uncle Ralph always sent to see the Grizzlies when one of these old rigs needed a repair? I slapped the truck on the side before climbing in. Norm slowly joined me, hauling himself up into the driver's seat. Turning his head to face me, he gave me the dark look I'd seen 1,000 times. Oh yeah, the Grizzlies. You mean the biker bastards who knocked you up? I'd never admitted anything. I never would. Father Unknown was listed on Caleb's birth certificate, and I'd hold to it for the rest of my life, especially when it looked like Roman wasn't coming around anytime soon. Truthfully, it was nobody's fucking business except my own, but that didn't mean Norm and everybody else couldn't put 2 and 2 together. Or maybe just one naive virgin farm girl plus one vicious biker thug who'd always fuck anything with curves. I knew the solution to that equation. 2 big messes. 2 ruined lives. Maybe 3 once Caleb grew up and started asking questions. I lived every sick struggle that came after the equal sign.
And that's the whole point here, Sally, Norm said softly, after all. Your connections, I mean. You can help out here. Greg just feeds me information from all his travels and the guys he talks to, but he doesn't have an in like you do.
Connection? In? What the hell are you talking about? His fingers reached up and twisted the key. The truck snorted to life, and slowly we headed back to our work area, away from the borderlands and their dirty little secret. Norm wouldn't answer. Somewhere about a mile or 2 down the road, it hit me. Oh, no. No, 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 no. No. You're talking about the MC, aren't you? Jesus, if you think I've got some special connection there, some people I'd call my friends, you're out of your fucking mind. I had to kill this plan now. It wasn't happening.
Sally, I'm not saying you do. All I know is you've been around them before. They know you. And they're also at war with the cartel. Don't you listen to the radio?
I wasn't going to answer him. Not until he stopped treating me like a total idiot or a damned tool he could throw around anywhere he pleased.
You ever heard the phrase, the enemy of my enemy is my friend?
Norman asked. Jesus, Norm, have you ever been off this farm? I had to stop before I bit my tongue in rage. Are you listening to your own plan right now? I mean, really fucking listening? We've got prowlers hiding crap on our land who belong to a terrorist gang, and your solution is to invite another one here?
Come on, you know it's not like that,
he insisted, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel.
The club's cleaned up their act from the rumors I hear. They're really helping people in the town now. Yeah, this cartel fight's part of that. They're selfish sons of bitches. They always were. But I think anybody wearing this patch is a whole lot less likely to shovel us into a shallow grave if we see something we shouldn't. They don't go for civilians. You stack 'em side by side with the cartel and tell me who's the lesser evil.
Does it matter when you still wind up with evil? Pushing the thoughts away, I stopped and stared at my cousin.
Come on, they're not that bad, girl. The drugs and whoring's all over from what I've heard.
Oh, I'm supposed to know that? I don't really read the papers, and I'm not best buddies with Greg either. He snorted. We drove on for a while in silence. Of course, I racked my brain the entire time, trying to find a better solution. The sanest one was running into the house, packing my things, and taking Caleb away, then heading as far north as we could possibly get. We could handle the Washington rain and winters far easier than the danger here in Redding. If only we had the cash. Money was always the wall. So was my background, or lack thereof. Farming alone didn't offer a great big world of opportunities.